Hey guys, welcome back to the Laid-Back Homestead. I'm Crystal, and today we are back in the kitchen, and I am going to be making some more freezer meals. This time, the focus is on beef. I have mentioned in a few other videos that I have to use my freezer a lot. I use it to preserve a lot of my harvest that comes in from the yard, and I use it to have meals on hand just to make life a little bit easier in general. My pantry is very small. It's like a micro pantry, so it's just a lot easier for me to use my freezer. Now, my last freezer video, we did chicken, and I managed to get 5 meals done in under an hour and a half. And today I think I can beat that. So I'm gonna bring y'all around, show y'all what we're making, and then we'll get started. Okay, we have 3 recipes we're gonna be making. The first one is requested by my oldest son, which is homemade meatballs. This one's gonna take the longest, so we'll probably get started with that one first because it needs a little bit of time to rest before we actually shape the meatballs. So we're making homemade meatballs for the freezer. One of the things that I always keep stocked on hand is taco meat. So I'll be making 2 batches of that for my freezer. And then the last recipe is new to me. It is a freezer beef stew. For this one, the hardest part is just going to be chopping up all the vegetables and throwing it in our bag. And yes, I do have my crock pot going back there because it is a busy weekday and I have a lot going on. So let's get started with these meatballs. All right, our ingredients for the meatballs. I have made this before. As I said, my oldest son is requesting this. He is not a fan of the pre-cooked frozen meatballs that everybody loves to use, including myself. But when I have a little extra time, I go ahead and make this for him. So you're gonna need a pound of beef, a pound of ground sausage. I'm using hot because he likes spicy things, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of milk, and some Parmesan, some breadcrumbs, I believe a 1/2 cup each, but I'll look that up before we start mixing. And then some garlic and salt and pepper. So I'm gonna go ahead and shortcut this process a little bit. It calls for mixing things in separate bowls, but I'm the laid-back homestead for a reason. I rather just get everything going at one time. So I'm gonna start by whisking up these 2 eggs. And to this, I'm just gonna go ahead and add in the 1/4 cup of milk. The original recipe calls for you to mix your dry ingredients separately. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna mix them into the wet. And it's really just a 1/2 teaspoon of your seasonings. So I did forget to mention, I know I mentioned garlic powder, but it also calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of Italian. I have my homemade Italian seasoning and it's pretty strong, so I'm just gonna eyeball that. And then it wants a 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. I'm using seasoned breadcrumbs, but I don't think it really matters. And a 1/2 cup of Parmesan. All right, so now I'm just gonna mix this to incorporate it. A chunk of Parmesan there. Just kind of get this all together. And then we'll add in our meat. Got my jewelry off, and we are just gonna get this in here. And we're gonna mix it by hand just until it's incorporated. You don't wanna overmix your meat mixtures. All right. And I am doing this with my hands. My hands are clean. Pro tip, if you have gloves, which I do, use them. It helps keep the chill off Oh, there's my oven. I had my oven preheating to 400 degrees, and she just dingling to let us know she's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and get this incorporated until it gets to the consistency I like to see, and then I'll see y'all back here in a second. Ooh, my hands are cold. All right, y'all, I think I'm where I want to be with this. It does say to let it sit for 5 minutes so that the breadcrumb mixture can soften up a little bit. My other tip to you is if you are making this for, well, really any reason at all, if you take your meat out and let it rest a little while, it's a lot easier on your hands if you don't have gloves that you can wear. I know, I have sensitive hands and they can't always handle the super cold like that. And sometimes I have to stop and take breaks. So I've found if you let your meat sit out for a little while, get a little bit closer to room temperature, not all the way, give it a few minutes to rest, it's a lot easier to mix. All right, y'all. My meat mixture for the meatballs is resting, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the taco meat cooking. Now the recipe I follow is really, it's just the McCormick recipe. I keep this on hand. It's just a really fast, almost you'd say, emergency meal for when something goes wrong. I like having taco meat in my freezer. It is just too easy. I'm gonna go ahead and get this taco meat browned up and then we will add in our seasonings. Just chopping it up as we go. If you have a favorite taco recipe, go ahead and share it with me down below. I'm always open to try new things. I keep this one on hand because it's really for my boys to eat and it's just simple, but I'm always open to trying new recipes. So now that our meat is browned, the seasoning calls for 1/4 cup per pound. I have 2 pounds here, so I am going in with 1/2 cup of the seasoning. Thought I was gonna have to open up the new one, but yeah, not gonna hold on to just that little bit. We've got our seasoning in there, and then to that 3/4 cups of water per pound. So 3/4 cup plus 3/4 cup is 1.5, I think. All right, so now that I've got my water, I'm gonna go ahead and stir this just to combine it, let it finish cooking. It's gonna simmer here on the stove. I'll let it cook some of that water out. While the taco meat was cooking, because I am trying to beat a clock, I'm kind of like rushing a little bit. My meatball mixture has rested. This recipe calls for about 2 tablespoons of meat mixture per meatball. I think this scoop I'm using it's either 1.5 or 2, but this is just what I normally use. And I'm just putting them, shaping them, get a little scoop, shaping them up in my hands. I'm sure we all know how to make a ball. I did it on camera. And then putting it on my baking sheet. So had I made these meatballs the proper size, there should be about 32. Mine are coming in, I think I counted 27. So mine are a little bit larger. It's not a big deal. They're all gonna go in the oven and bake. And when they come out, I will go ahead and actually pre-freeze them on another cookie sheet. And then once they're frozen, I will go ahead and throw them in a Ziploc freezer bag and pop them into the freezer for good. Now this is going into a preheated oven, 400 degrees, and I'm gonna bake mine for 20 minutes. Our taco meat is still simmering away. So now we're gonna get started on the very last recipe, and that is the beef stew. All right, so for our final freezer meal, you're going to need, it's the beef stew. You're gonna need 3 carrots, 2 stalks of celery, an onion, and I'm using a beef stew pack. The original recipe doesn't call for that, but I have it, so I'm gonna use it. I'm also gonna use some Cajun seasoning. It does call for a bay leaf and some garlic powder and onion powder. And I do believe it also calls for Italian seasoning. Now, as always, I will have the original recipes linked down below. Oh, and I almost forgot the star of the show. You're gonna need some stew meat. And I'm gonna start by placing my stew meat in a gallon Ziploc bag. Now, for this recipe, you also can put in the liquid. It calls for 7 cups of beef broth, which when I cook this, I'm just going to use 8 because it'll be a lot easier for me to buy 8. But anyway, you can put your liquid in now and let it all freeze together. However, if you're worried about leakage or anything like that, just write it on your bag that you need the beef broth prior. It also calls for pearled barley, which I cannot find. I don't live where there are large grocery stores. We have like little marketplaces, and that is just not something I've been able to source. So again, when I go to serve this, I will probably just make up rice or quinoa or something along those lines. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and chop up our celery. And I leave my celery a little big because my kids don't like it, and this makes it easier for them to pick it out. All right, celery is done. Go ahead and get these carrots in there. And you know, stews are one of my favorite ways to use up a lot of the root vegetables that I get in the fall. And I'm getting so excited because I'm in the process of seed starting for fall and just getting things out there. So something about the transition of the seasons is always just super exciting for me. And having stews ready to go in the freezer is just great. I mean, it's one way to also use up your harvest, your fall harvest, to succession sow. And that's what I plan to do this year. You have my word. You heard it here on YouTube. I'm going to be good homesteader and utilize my produce as it comes in and succession plant, because that's the one thing I am not always the best at. All right, we got about 6 minutes left on the clock for the meatballs. The taco meat is done and has been cooling. And my beef stew, everything is chopped and in the bag. So now I'm just gonna add in this beef stew packet along with some salt, and I'm not measuring this. Again, I will link the original recipe down below for you to follow it as is. Some onion powder, some garlic powder. This is real life trying to beat the clock today. I'm gonna go in with a little Cajun seasoning, the Tony's Chacheries. And last but not least, a little bit of my homemade Italian seasoning. Use whatever you have. And that's it. Like I said, you can put your liquid in now. I'm not, just because I don't want to deal with it in my freezer. But what I will also say is, when I prepared to put this in my freezer, I went ahead and just pre-bought the beef stock. So whatever night I need to cook this, I don't have to worry about ordering something separate. I'm just gonna zip her up and give her a good shake. Help all the seasoning to get incorporated. Once I have it all mixed and incorporated, I am flattening it out as much as possible, just so it lays flat in my freezer and I can stack them. And you do want to get as much air out as possible. And I have that labeled and ready to go. I just pulled our meatballs out, so I'm going to let them cool until they can be flash frozen. And while I'm waiting, we're going to go ahead and get our taco meat stored. I have these leftover soup containers just from different restaurants that me and my husband eat at. And we reuse these over and over and over again for the freezer. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this out evenly between the two. Each one of these holds roughly 1 pound of taco meat that I have found. All right, so I misspoke earlier. These containers will actually hold slightly more than 1 pound of meat. You probably really could get 1.5 pounds, but my kids as a meal only eat 1 pound at a time. So that's why I do 1 pound per container. Just makes it easier to pop out 1 serving size, heat it up, and we've got an emergency weeknight dinner. So our meatballs have cooled down. I went ahead and just transferred them to a clean platter or pan. And now I'm gonna go ahead and pop them in my freezer and flash freeze them. Okay, our meatballs are frozen. And now I am just going to pop them off there and into my Ziploc baggie. And because they are flash frozen, it doesn't matter that they touch inside the bag. They will not stick together. There we go, guys. 5 meals, under an hour, 3 different recipes, and I only had to dirty my kitchen 1 time. So this is definitely my favorite way to meal prep, to cook, just to keep my life a little bit sane while on the homestead. Tacos, beef stew, and our meatballs. And obviously any of these you could double or quadruple. And maybe that's what I'll do next time. This time I was trying to get it all done under an hour because I just have so much going on. But maybe if you're interested, I'll do a larger batch of kind of like stocking the freezer. I don't know. Let me know down below. Well, guys, I'm outside and we have a little thunderstorm about to roll through. But I hope these recipes inspire you to stock your freezer. It's probably my most favorite tool on my homestead. Well, my soon-to-be homestead. But yeah, if you have any favorite freezer meals, please go ahead and share them with me. And if you're into gardening, homesteading, and cooking content, I encourage you to subscribe. If you like this video or found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. And until next time, stay blessed.